at El Matador, 606 South Main Street in Bountiful. El Matador.
97.5 KZNS FM Colville, 1280 KZNS AM Salt Lake City, and KSL FM HD2 Salt Lake City Midvale. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Covering the Utes better than anyone else. This is Ute Insider Steve Bartle of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of the 2024 transfer portal.
I really thought this was a Christmas story about to pop off here. I'm like,
no, it's the Days of Our Lives open from back in the early 80s. When my grandma was like, I gotta watch my stories.
yo, honestly,
The soap opera. I think it might be the original soap opera. I don't know. Alex Naples, our producer, has never even heard of Days of Our Lives. And you know what? Okay, how can I describe it to Alex? It's The Bachelor, but even less real. Somehow even less real. Maybe even more real. I don't know. But yes, you heard it. It is the soap opera of the transfer portal in 2024. And anytime we dip in now with all of our Ute experts and our BYU experts, and of course Steve Bartle, our Ute insider for KSLSports.com, is going to give us an update on the transfer portal. It is a soap opera, though, isn't it, Steve?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It definitely is, man.
All the back and forth, and the guys that you would never think had a beef, maybe you'd be like, no, they're going to be here forever. And then when they jump in the transfer portal, you're like, what happened? And then the other guys, you're thinking, oh, he's definitely going to hit the transfer portal, and then they don't. Or the drama that gets guys to leave, or the things that were happening behind the scenes, all of it is, on the one hand, it's actually kind of fun to watch just because of how crazy the college football world is. But what do we know about the Utes transfer portal situation right now as of, just after 5 o'clock here on the 5th of December?
Yeah, obviously it's early with the transfer portal opening up on Monday, but we've seen a handful of guys announce, that their intentions. Seen a couple guys today actually announce their intentions to enter the portal. And so obviously this all starts back with Jalen Glover, the running back, announcing his intentions a couple weeks ago. And then Vili T, I'm not going to try to say his last name because it's a wild one, but Vili T, a defensive end at Utah. He was a JUCO addition a couple summers ago. He announced yesterday, and then today we've seen three more announce their intentions to hit the portal with Sione Fotu, a linebacker that's been with the program a couple years, running back Anthony Woods, who redshirted this season due to injury that he suffered, I believe, last year, and then cornerback CJ Blocker, who was, a big-time recruiting win back in 2023, but has not been able to crack the rotation at Utah. So, it's always tough to see guys announce their intentions to enter the portal because, you want every guy that comes to Utah to find success here. But I think for the most part, these departures so far have been expected. And, Utah's going to enter the portal having a pretty good idea of what position groups they need to hit on. It starts with quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and then on the defense side of the ball, you're probably looking at defensive end and cornerback as two position groups that could potentially be areas of focus. Obviously, in the portal, you're always going to look for talent wherever you can get it. Utah's always good at finding guys that they feel can help, and so we'll see. But those positions I mentioned are going to be real priorities for Utah in the portal this cycle.
Yeah, what have you been feeling, right? Like, so the portal opens up Monday. There's only been a couple guys that's jumped in. This has been one of the craziest seasons, we've seen in a very long time. From disgruntledness, from anticipatory people going into the portal, no surprises yet. How many people do you think is going to be in there by Monday? And who
that's a great question, Sly. Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I wish I had a detailed answer to prepare everybody for what to expect. But I think for the most part, what you'll see is I expect most of the defense, key defensive players I don't anticipate Utah losing anybody there, but depending on what happens with Whittingham, his decision could, whether he's coming back or whether he's retiring, that could obviously change things, and that opens up an additional portal whenever, if he does decide to retire, that opens up a portal window of 30 days for guys to enter, and so that's always a factor. But as of right now, with the defense, I think most of the key defensive players are set to return, and I think you've seen a handful of guys announce that they're returning. You've seen these announcements. A Utah man is MI, and you've seen that from Logan Fano, Spencer Fano, Caleb Lomu recently as well. And I think Utah is making sure that they keep their top priorities on both sides of the ball, and for Utah to keep a hold of their top of their two tackles, Fano and Lomu. That's big for the offense. Offensively, like I said, I think most of the defense is going to remain intact, but obviously you could lose a guy or two from there. Offensively, it'll be interesting, right? So obviously things did not go very well on the offensive side of the ball, and there's probably a lot of frustration, a lot of disgruntledness, as you said, Sly, and you could see maybe a few guys that elect to hit the portal that maybe surprise us, right? At the tight end position, Utah was supposedly 6 deep. They didn't utilize a lot of that depth this year,
right.
But that could lead to a guy like Landon King hitting the portal. That could lead to a guy like Carson Ryan hitting the portal. We'll see on that front. Receiver, you never know, but I think for the most part, Utah has a good idea of the guys that'll hit the portal in those positions I mentioned. Will probably be groups like we've seen already with running back, with Glover and Anthony Woods now hitting the portal. Utah has a good sense of what positions they're going to have to hit, and those are the big keys for them moving forward.
Steve, give us an update on what the offensive coordinator search looks like. If you go to KSLSports.com, Steve's got a write-up of some of the names that have been on there. We've been picking some of them off. I know Ben Arbuckle was high on the list, and I think as of today, we even saw another one come off of the board, and another person that I think Utah would have been very, very interested in, which was that offensive coordinator, Mac Leftwich. It was out of Texas State. He had a success not just at Texas State, where they put up a lot of big numbers, but also at Incarnate Word, where, of course, he kind of he was that catalyst of helping Cam Ward kind of get to where he was at. So help us understand where the search is now, because a couple of those big names have come off the board for the Utes.
Yeah, it's been a wild couple of days on the offensive coordinator search. Obviously, Ben Arbuckle, Utah went, felt they had their guy in Ben Arbuckle, and then Oklahoma came in late and were able to match and probably beat Utah on the money they had for Arbuckle. With Mac Leftwich, that was a crazy ride yesterday. So
he came out. Did he come out here? Did he come out?
Yeah, he came out. Yep, he came out. I tweeted out that there was a private jet coming to Utah, bringing Mac Leftwich. It was actually coming to pick Mac Leftwich up and take him back to Texas. And there was a little bit of misunderstanding.
He had driven out, and then they flew him back.
Yeah, see, you got it. So it sounded like Utah was feeling good about Leftwich, but with Texas Tech, with him going back there, and Leftwich, talking to people that know him, he was always a big-time Texas guy. Yeah. And, Texas, they have a lot of pride in the state of Texas. Take pride in it, and it can be tough to pull some of those guys from the state. But with Leftwich, I do think, there was probably some contract differences between what Utah was offering and Texas Tech, and that's why he's ended up accepting a deal with Texas Tech. So here we are now. Nobody cares about what's happened. We care about what's going to come, and all of the intel, today and digging on this points to New Mexico offensive coordinator Jason Beck.
Oh wow, really?
As emerging as the top option for Utah right now, and with Beck, when you look at what he's accomplished, there's some really encouraging numbers, some really encouraging statistics. New Mexico was, number 34 in red zone touchdown conversion rate in the country. Utah was 123, if I remember. So, you love that first and foremost. his offenses. He's been in offenses where they've thrown the ball well. He's been a quarterback coach for, I think, 15 seasons now. He coached Brendan Armstrong to almost 4,500 passing yards in a season. Bryce Perkins at Virginia, over 3,000. I think he ended up with 3,300 passing yards. This past year at New Mexico with Devin Dampier, a dual threat athlete, dual threat quarterback. Passing isn't necessarily his strength, but was able to maximize that offense where they were, when you look at what they did against Power 5 competition specifically, still the offense held up really well. I think they averaged about 32 points per game, and still about 470 total yards against Power 5 competition, and that included Auburn, Arizona, and Washington State. So, you like how that translates. It's not just an offense that's taking advantage against Mountain West Conference competition. It's still an offense that can produce against more talented teams, and I think that says a lot. And so when you actually look into Beck's resume and what he's been able to do, you like a lot of what he could bring to the table for Utah. Obviously, with what we've experienced over the last couple of days, Utah's got to close the deal on it. But again, all indications point to Beck right now.
When do you expect when do you anticipate things to start moving, right? Like we talked to Witt, during the season, and he's like, I know we want to get this in place. Signing day was yesterday, but a lot of this movement from the portal to coaching decisions, whether that's Coach Witt coming back or the offensive coordinator being named, where's your timeline or what's your expectations on Utah actually starting to announce those things?
Yeah, obviously the sooner the better, but I think with the high school recruiting, there wasn't much concern about having an offensive coordinator in place per se by then. I know Coach Whittingham said by signing day it'd be ideal, but I think it's more important for them to have an OC in place before the transfer portal opens up, way more than the high school recruiting. Just because transfer portal guys take the substance of a program way more seriously and value it way more as they're going through the transfer portal, their transfer process. They're looking at what actually matters and considering that much more than a high school recruit might. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I think having an OC in place is going to be really imperative for Utah as the transfer portal opens, because players are going to want to know, what offense am I coming into? What role am I going to have?
Right.
And without that offensive coordinator in place, it's really hard to obviously sell a guy on that. Obviously money and all that talks, but still having a coordinator in place is going to be super important. And then with Witt too, again, like I mentioned a little bit ago, if he does decide to step away, there is still that transfer portal window that opens whenever a head coach, leaves a program. And so that's a 30-day window that would open. So you would like to have Witt's decision officially made sometime around the transfer portal opening as well. So, I'm not trying to create these expectations that, things have to be done by Monday when the portal opens up. But I think there is real pressure for Utah to have, at least something in place on both of those fronts, at least around then.
Has high school players dropped off, as far as being recruited? Is there as many high school recruit numbers as there used to be?
That's a great question, Sly. And there's been a lot of talk that high school recruiting has been impacted negatively in terms of the opportunities available to them because of how much transfer portal recruiting has, supplanted that now.
The 105 roster number is going to affect that too, I feel
and
like.
that's going to be the big difference this year is the implementation of the 105. And so it's going to be fascinating to see the impact that is going to have, right? If you eliminate spots at the top, there should be a trickle-down effect in terms of the players, the talent to the lower levels. And so, while it's going to be difficult for the programs at the top because they don't have the same number of guys in the program, and they have to be much more careful in terms of the numbers and scholarship numbers and managing those. They have to be, really careful and precise with what they're doing. There's an opportunity for, these lower level programs to really benefit from kind of that trickle down effect, and, players too that maybe had to walk on to a Utah or to a BYU type of program. They can now go to, Weber State or Utah Tech and have a genuine opportunity to see playing time, which, if they take advantage of those opportunities, as we're seeing, you can work your way back up the ranks in college. So, it's going to be fascinating. That's kind of a big picture view of kind of the impact. It's the transfer portal and the 105. It's certainly impacted the number of high school recruits in a class. I think you're seeing a lot of programs kind of center in on 20 guys from high school in every class when that was typically 25 to 30 in years past. Now it's much smaller, and there's more of a cap on it right at 20 because you also want to save spots for the transfer portal as well.
Lastly here, Steve, Big 12 all-conference team rolls out, and you got some selections there for Utah. I don't think Spencer Fano's a shock for anybody. I think JJ and I were both like, "Hey, this is going to be I think you're going to see him get on." I had him on the second team on my list, and JJ said he might sneak on the first team, and he did. An awesome year for the sophomore, and then Brant Keithy on the first team. I think that was as big of a shock as anything, just because you sometimes get dinged when you don't play as much.
Yeah, Spencer Fano, man, he earned that. He had that kind of rough season opener against SCU. But he was lights out the rest of the season. I think he allowed 1 sack on the year, and you consider the amount of games played and snaps played and all that. He was fantastic, and he was a force in the run game off that right side. He would wash down that right side of the line a lot of the time. So he put himself in a position. He really took a big step forward, and I think that first team selection is very well deserved. With Brant Keithy, man, it's a testament to him and the impact that he had on this team, that he was able to secure a first team spot with only I think he made it to game 9 before his injury. And, just his production, he was just an impact player for Utah in the 8 games that he played, 505 yards. It was him and Dorian Singer. They were top 10, top 15 in terms of receiving production for most of the year before his injury. And Keithy was leading the way in tight end production. So, surprising given the injury, but overall Keithy was super productive in his time, on the field. And then the second team with Van and Jack and the honorable mentions with Tafuna and Tanavas, I think those are well-deserved and properly selected as well.
Well, Steve, we appreciate it, man. Lots going on, of course. No rest for the Utes or anybody in the offseason here. I mean, everybody's just got to get right back into it. And so we're, of course, going to be watching these next few days, see what the signings are all like, see what the offensive coordinator search, and, of course, the Kyle Whittingham news, whatever that may be coming up the next few days. If you want to follow it all, you get the best person to follow on all this is Steve Bartle, our Ute insider for KSLSports.com. Steve, we'll chat with you again, man. Thanks for hanging out.
Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you soon.
There you go. There's Steve. Lots. I mean, you think the season's over and you're not going to a bowl game. It actually might be more work because you're like, there are a lot of questions to be asked.
Well, I mean, you got to anticipate the situations, what could happen. You got to report on what your thoughts on are that, and then let alone it actually happening. It's just nuts. So, yeah, I don't envy his job. He's got a lot to worry about.
All right.
Stay with us, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
All the latest news and notes from the league and the locals in the NFL. JJ and Alex bring you the NFL Blitz on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
everybody. Welcome back. You know what that music means. Oh, man. Remember the old NFL films? Remember just watching? I remember just...
You know how kids... what's the TV show that they love now?
I looked at Alex.
Coco Melon?
Oh, no. Golden Bachelorette. Isn't that what you guys like now? Coco Melon.
No, the
yeah.
Coco Melon. You know how the
Yes.
kids' reaction to Coco Melon sound? That's my reaction.
Oh,
with
you
NFL
hear
films.
this?
Yeah, I was like, I turn up. Who's
Yeah, it was
playing
for
this?
me. For me, it was. You remember the old TGIF, like theme songs that would come on?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Full House would rock, and I'd be like, "Oh, I'm here."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
These are
Family
those
Matters.
sounds.
Family Matters. I'm there. Fresh Prince. I'm there.
You don't even have to be in the room and you know
No,
what's
you
going
hear
on.
it, and you're
Married
dial
with kids? Married with children?
in. Married with Children on Sunday nights. Dude.
Oh, yeah.
And what's funny about that is it took me a long time. I mean, when you're a kid, you don't realize love and marriage. And that's being sung by Blue Eyes. It's being sung by Frank Sinatra. And you're like, who's the guy who sings this song? It's kind of weird. And you're like, an actual artist who...
Only the greatest?
Maybe the greatest jazz singer of all time. All right. Here's what we got, though. The old NFL Blitz. First of all, it's not just that time of year for NFL coaches to look for college jobs. It's for those big-time college coaches also be looking around and be like, hey, they're circling the waters too. Be like, hey, Doug Peterson, when are you going to lose your job, man? Speaking of guys who lost their job, Eric Bieniemy, first-year OC at UCLA. Who's the head coach at UCLA? Is it it's Deshaun Foster. This is like they went that poorly. Look, UCLA, I guess their biggest problems were not just that. I mean, overall, the team did not do well. This was a bad year for him. Eric Bieniemy, I don't think is a college guy. Like he comes across. Everybody says he runs a tight ship and he can be kind of mean. He can kind of come after you. Maybe the kids weren't having it at UCLA, man. I don't know. I mean,
look at Bieniemy. You got to ask a lot of questions. There was a reason why he didn't get a head coaching job, right? You know,
yeah.
And everybody's like, why? And so was it all Kansas City? Like he went to the Commanders after it wasn't great. Like now UCLA. I mean, he's got to do another stint before you can really pinpoint that. But like
maybe he just rubs people the wrong way, including the guys who he works for. Andy Reid figured it out. But part of it was he's like, yeah, you're the OC, but I'm calling all the plays, right?
So what's my job?
Tell me what it is. And that's why Bieniemy's like,
you want me to do.
So Bieniemy's like, all right, cool. Well, I want to go to a place that I get to hold the card in front of my face and call the plays on the sideline, right? And so, out after 1 year. So we'll see if he goes back to the NFL. But some teams already inquiring, I guess, about. Look, it's something to be said about a guy who's had success at a lot of high levels here. So there you go. Also up on the, I wanted to throw that one in, but the Cowboys, and they're all pro. I think he's a 7-time All-Pro guard, Zach Martin. Going to have season-ending surgery. That's not good news. Of all the season-ending surgeries that the Cowboys could have, that actually might be the worst one. Because Dax has been bad, but Dak has also played poorly. Zach Martin's a legit All-Pro on that offensive line that already struggles right now to keep a rush off of Cooper Rush and to get some rushing yards. And so when you're losing a guy like Zach Martin, when he went down, I remember the game. It was a couple games ago, and this is a guy who's been around a long time, and he saw his knee pointed out, and he goes, nope. They're like, this isn't good. This isn't happening. So that's a bummer for them. Hey, Trevor Lawrence going to be on the IR thanks to that massive hit. What was your thought on Alshair's hit on Trevor Lawrence, the old forearm shiver to the noggin? And look, I know that you're a former defender, but could you even see that was a little bit wild when that happened? Or are you one of those guys who goes, nope, bang, bang, play. I'm going to defend my linebackers.
I mean, we have great TV, so you're able to slow things down and see that. So, like, yeah, it could be bang, bang. But, like, you got to understand, I was part of the 2010 Steelers that really changed the whole freaking game for all of this. If you guys remember that Cleveland Browns game where, like, 4 people got knocked out, James Harrison was complimented for, like, 3 of them. I was a part of that team.
Was Hushmanzada, was he part of that? No, who was it that got absolutely
Josh
jacked?
Cribbs.
Cribbs went down hard.
Yeah, that was it.
But Antonio Brown got clocked also maybe in one of those
Cincinnati games. That was later. That was like
later,
4 years later.
Yeah.
But one, I don't know. One, I hate the QB slide, all that stuff. It's so hard to determine because one, you get quarterbacks who run and then try to take advantage of the slide as well. And so as a defender, you're getting Patrick Mahomes who's tiptoeing the sidelines when normally you should be calling them out because we get blasted for all that. So that's what's going through a lot of the defenders' minds. And so they want to like try to get a hit on the quarterback even when you can't. But I don't know. It's a penalty. Definitely should. And I don't know about the suspension. But I think it was definitely a hit to the head.
Speaking of suspensions, this is one of the weird ones. Imagine being in the league and doing this. I don't know. Maybe Sly, you get to a point. Maybe you get that. Maybe you go full Antonio Brown and take your pads off and run off the field. But the Ravens have just suspended wide receiver Deontay Johnson. Did you see this too? And now when they show the video of it too, it's quite wild when they're like, "Put your helmet on, let's go." And he's like, "This no." So he refused to go into the game against the Eagles. The Ravens general manager, Eric DeCosta, said today in a statement, Deontay's suspension is stemming from refusing to enter our game versus the Philadelphia Eagles.
All I have to say to that stuff is just like, Steelers they just know what's going on. Like, these guys are just not good to handle, and
they can sniff out the bad guys.
They can sniff it out. Deontay had a good career while he was with her, and then he started acting up, and then peace out. Antonio Brown, NFL Hall of Fame career. When he was with the Steelers, started to act out, you're out. Santonio Holmes started to act out, you're out. Like, all these one positions, receivers are.
Wide Redivas. Le'Veon Bell goes, I'm sitting out, and they go,
You're doing
what?
You
can.
Off
you
this
can,
team.
and we'll see you.
Yeah.
And you'll never be good again, and he never was.
Yeah. So all I saw was the title, Deontay Johnson refusing to enter the game, and I just listened to Mike Tomlin like, he doesn't do anything for their team. I'm not really paying attention to him.
I just love the insane look in Tomlin's eyes on the sidelines. Just like, and I think to myself, how did Sly have to deal with Coach Tomlin one-on-one with that intensity? Because I'm scared of him, and I'm 2,000 miles away watching him on a TV. Was he that scary, or was he more, when he's your coach, you're like, I love this dude?
He's just serious. Well, one, he's a player's guy, so he jokes with you.
So dudes do love him.
Yeah, of course. So, like, all that stuff, honestly, it's just like a black parent. So a lot of guys are comfortable with all of that. You know, the joking around and when you get serious and the conversations that are had, all of that was just real comfortable and real familiar for a lot of guys.
That's interesting. I just love the intense look on.
That's how your parents looked at you. So we were just used to that. I knew exactly what that was. The dad look.
He didn't piss down his leg, so that's a good start. Like, I just love any Mike Tomlin quote. I just freaking king, All right.
He's the king of those.
We'll take a break. We'll come back. We've got more to go. When we return, we'll give you our best and worst of the day, and we'll get you ready for the rest of the program as well. We'll also chat with Haley Clark one more time from Hercules Credit Union. More to go. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Wrapping up the hour with our picks for the best and worst moments on today's show. As JJ and Alex want to hear your best and worst of the day.
All right, now we're ready. Welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Stevenson Sylvester, Alex Kirry, Sly sitting in for JJ. Always fun to have Sly in with me anytime I can jam. Our off-the-air conversations are just as lively and weird as they are on the air, so there you go. Sly, let me ask you this. When you were a player and when you would see, rankings and things like that, and when players, I was like, I got to ask Sly this, because this week we were talking to another player, and he goes, we don't look at any of that stuff. And I was like, okay, probably per player. Every player, it's a different thing. Every team, it's probably a different thing too. But when somebody goes, oh, I don't see any of that. I don't see those rankings from the media. I don't care about any of that stuff. Can I call the BS meter on them? Or you can
shout it to the heavens. That's all they check.
Oh, I don't see.
As soon as the game ends, they're looking for the photos. Or like, hurry up, Mita, upload the photos. If they're looking for the photos, you don't think they're looking for the rankings?
Hey, give me that catch that I had in the third quarter.
Yeah.
I never.
You see the reposts on social media all the time. They're searching for that stuff. They call BS to the heavens, man, and that's been since the test of time. That's not even nothing new.
We never look at any of that stuff. That's stuff you guys worry about.
Yeah,
not us.
I mean,
I always love the lines.
I think it's a 98% guarantee that they look at the rating. There's only like a 2% guys who don't. That's like your Joe Thomases, your certain people who know they're a 5-star guy. They don't care. Like they're getting 30 million offers, so they're like, I just got to choose one. So I'm not looking at anything. Those are the only guys that wouldn't be looking, and that's like a 1 to 2%.
All right. Now, you know what? I like the honesty. But when you're a player, you're like, I don't pay attention to any of that stuff, right?
No, I did. What do you think? You get bulletin board material in the locker room.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you need motivation. And, Stephen A. Smith said this about me. This and that. Like, they pay attention to that. You gotta see it. Yeah.
All right. Sly, appreciate it, man.
Stay with us, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.